Tabletops will start after the following messages.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
Do you know where the legend of Bigfoot comes from? Or why people leave offerings of beans to the Mothman statue? No? Well, I'll certainly tell you on Myth Monsters. We're a mythical monsters and cryptid podcast that goes up every Thursday, and we talk about how these monsters came to be and how they exist within our modern culture and media to this day. So if you're interested in finding out about kelpies, wendigos, unicorns, or Bigfoot himself, tune in to Myth Monsters every Thursday on all streaming platforms, and please, stay spooky.
Oh, Daniel, are you around? Oh God, I can't believe that we were pushed into this huge vat of beer and are slowly sinking down to the... Oh, Daniel's already gone. Oh God, but if we were to die in this crazy way, so similar to the 2006 Seminole Classic Beer Fest, then who is going to talk about Hags today on the extra episode of Tabletop? Oh God, sweet death, please. Oh.
Welcome back, everyone, to Tabletopped. I am not Nick. I'm actually Shade. I regret to inform you, Nick is now a ghost. But we're going to keep going. With me today is...
Greg, that's new information for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Him and Daniel off a cliff. It was wild.
Wow, geez.
It was terrible.
Yeah, hi, this is Franco. Yeah, Greg, they actually fell off a cliff into a vat of beer.
Oh my God, I didn't know that part.
Well, okay, I'm a little less sad now.
Yeah, no, this is Sean. I wouldn't say that they died doing what they loved, but they definitely died doing something.
There you go. As we hope we all do. But today we're going to be talking about Hags because it is still October, Halloween, and this is an Under the Bed for Hags. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about them. What do you guys have to say about Hags? Are we focusing, I think, on D&D Hags mostly?
Mostly D&D Hags, okay. I'd say, yeah. And maybe the lore that goes behind them that everybody knows the most famous hag in existence is the Baba Yaga.
There we go.
Not the John Wick one, but the...
Fun fact, it is actually the same one.
Is it the same one?
It's the same one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love... I took a Russian fairy tales class in college because my degree is worthless, except right now. Yeah, so a lot of like the Baba Yaga stuff is really fascinating. I don't know how much the D&D lore took from those stories, but I think what's really interesting about the hag is that like in the D&D lore, it's like it's a fairy creature, and so like it's from the Feywild. It represents this like really chaotic and evil part of the Feywild that, you know, is like so crucial to get into the Feywild. Like it's so alien to us. But yeah, Baba Yaga, very fun. Highly recommend reading all the stories about her.
So yeah, why don't we dive a little bit, because we're kind of hinting at this. Let's talk a little bit about the stats and things like that. So hags, like you said, are typically Fey. There is, in 5th edition, one non-Fey hag that I'm aware of, and that is the Night Hag, which was Fey, but then became a fiend because it began trading in souls and things like that. But as hags, like you said, they're all about contracts. They are some of your best contract creatures, aside from maybe devils and if you want to do some archfey. There are a variety of hags that you can run. You can find them in the monster manual. You can find them in Multiverse of Monsters, Monsters of the Multiverse, sorry. And they also had a whole section in Volos, which has been retired for 5th edition, but if you have a copy of Volos, if you could find a copy, it'd have to be physical now. I do recommend it because there's some interesting lore bits there. And then we mentioned Baba Yaga for D&D. Baba Yaga is actually part of the D&D canon. She is the mother of Tasha, who you might know from the Cauldron of Everything, among many other things. But when you're running hags, like, what do you like to do with them? What are you really aiming for when you run them?
Well, personally, I've run I think a couple of games with hags, and I think they're a fun creep factor because they can appear as normal. They can appear as they're sort of shapeshifters by nature. You'd have to have true sight to really get past that, but so they're good for tricksters and just a good creep factor. They get that they under your skin somehow. There's something about them that's off, and the more you find out about them as the story or the campaign unfolds, the more they creep you out. They don't go back to being this normal thing. It just drives you farther and farther into the bizarre.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the reasons I love, going to the mythology and lore and including it in D&D of hags is, first off, I love me some Warlock packs, like Pact of Thay and all that stuff, but hags are definitely, as you were saying, Shade, ones who are more interested in contracts. The hags are kind of unique in the Fae because I usually consider Fae to be not really interested in good or evil, and a lot of hags tend to be very indulgent in acts of cruelty, but rather unlike a devil or a demon who generally wants to destroy good things, they're sometimes even fascinated by it, and they're collectors, so they can be really, really important NPCs when it comes to finding out important knowledge and delving into important secrets. But there's always going to be a catch. They are the gatekeepers when it comes to finding out information that could make your characters more powerful or be able to deal with more of a threat. But what are you willing to part with in order to get that? And obviously souls can be one thing, but I think what's really cool about a hag is you can really make it a little bit more mysterious because it's not always that case. The new game, Baldur's Gate 3, they just came out with something, and what I love, there's a spoilers, but there is a scene where you encounter a hag, and the hag's willing to help you out, but they're just like, in return, I just want to pluck your eye from your head, give it a little kiss, and then put it right back in. And it's just really, as like what Sean was saying with the unnerving creep factor, it's like, all right, and it's just like, oh, you'll be able to see with it, and it's like, okay, but and it's just, obviously there's an agenda, but what is it? And is it for the lulz? Because they're very into it. So you can do so much with them.
That's fantastic. So one of the things that I'm kind of hearing between the two of you in particular is they are maybe not, enemies to just fight, but actually enemies to drive story.
For sure, yeah.
Definitely.
So how have you done that in your games?
When I was building out I had like a sandbox in my last campaign, like these 13 islands, and I was like, I want to use every hag. And so, just like placing them places like, I think the Burr hag has like a lot of like sort of like she can impact the weather.
Yep.
And so there was an island that was like completely covered in snow and frost and stuff, and that was caused by her. There was one, and the other fun thing about hags is that you can give them really fun names.
It's true.
I'll have to pull up the ones that I had before. But one of them was asking the heroes for help, like retrieving a saint's relic. And so the heroes went out and grabbed it, and she was like, great, give it to me now. And like the heroes were like, actually, maybe we don't want to do this, because previously like she had been like kind of helping them, and then they realized that she had been using like coins to control like the children in town, and she was like, yeah, I'll just use this coin to whisper to my like servant children that are like, you know, just populating the village, and they're gonna set the town on fire to provide you guys a distraction. And
my God.
like the characters like
about that.
Yeah, the characters like didn't know that that's what the distraction was gonna be.
Yeah.
And so she was like, yeah, I'll just make these children set a bunch of fires in town, and then you guys can sneak into the abbey. So I think like if you can make the hag sort of also helpful, but like in a really unsettling and creepy way,
Yeah.
it can be really, you know, interesting. I mean, obviously that's like the wishes and stuff. And there's another hag that I put in, a dusk hag.
Oh yeah, I believe that's from a Critical Role setting, or it might be from the
it
Tome of
is.
Beasts from Kobold Press.
I actually pulled it up. It's
There's so many hags. To
yeah,
scroll
there's
through.
so many hags. That is one of the other cool things.
it's from Eberron, Rising from the Last War.
oh shoot, I was way off.
Yeah, so the the dusk hag is very cool. I mean, there's a lot of like the hags can also kind of infiltrate your dreams. Like the night hag does that a lot.
Yeah.
The dusk hag has the power of prophecy, and so that's a pretty fun thing to play around with. But her prophecies are very strange. Like it's always just something that's a little bit off, you know. And so when I had the characters go into her hut, she was just asking them to finish a meal with them, and they almost did, and then they like freaked out and started leaving. And it was like a pretty normal meal. It was just like kind of old crappy food.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that where it's just like something's a tiny bit off can be really flavorful for introducing a hag into your campaign.
So one of the things you mentioned there that I personally really love about hags is you've all kind of touched on, they have this magic that makes things unsettling, but usually in 5th edition it's kind of referred to as weird, and it has been referred to that in older editions too. The thing I really love about hags is that weird magic can do anything. Sometimes you feel a little restricted with some of the monsters and the stat blocks, but it's so clear that no, they're supposed to be able to just pluck your eye out and lick it. They're supposed to be able to whisper things into children in the next 10-mile radius and get them to set fires. Like, it is supposed to be unsettling, goodness, and its power, but still also has a rooted stat block, because despite being, I think, a story driver, this is still a monster you can fight.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can basically fight anything in 5th edition.
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, they do have a stat block if they are if they turn into a villain, or your players want to fight them, then you've got the spells they can cast. You got their armor class. You got every single hag is a little bit unique in their stat blocks too. So it's worth looking at the different types and seeing which one fits your setting. Some of them are more powerful than the others. You don't want to toss maybe a dusk or a night hag at some of your lower level characters when a green hag, right? But a green hag might be a little bit more balanced for a lower level character.
Yeah. Speaking of the mechanic, like combining that sort of the narrative stuff and then the mechanical stuff. I was just looking at the stat blocks, because the Burr hag has an attack where she feeds on a fresh corpse and can drive people mad in like a certain radius. It's just like, oh, that really combines those two things together.
Yep, absolutely.
Good lord.
So along with that, though, and what I was kind of driving towards with the you can fight it is they are attainable fights. An ancient dragon seems so unattainable, even at higher levels. I feel like that's scary. But a hag, no matter what level, I do feel like if it's just the hag and maybe a few allies, I could take it on. However, hags are not always alone. They like to form covens. Have you all ran covens before?
I didn't run a whole coven. I had a hag that had hired an ogre to protect her while she was gestating a cop. Like the hags, it doesn't matter. We're not going to get into that. It's gross. It's
For the best.
But yeah, as a protector and a fighter to help keep her safe while she crafted her machinations.
You know, I will get into that. This is something that's found in Volos. I don't believe it's in the monster manual, but so again, retired book. But hags are thought to steal and eat babies, and then give birth to those babies again. So they are still the baby until they come of age, at which point they become a hag.
Yeah, if when they turn 13. Yeah, you don't have to put that in your game.
No, not at all.
No, you do not have to.
But it's pretty rough, and I think it can definitely lead to some definite like places you might not want your game to go to.
Yes.
So just word of caution in using that a little tidbit, but it can be very I don't know, disturbing.
Yeah, and I mean it also has possibly the troublesome things of, we can think about we all live in Massachusetts. We're aware of what the Salem witch trials and things like that did.
Yeah.
They victimize people because, we suspect you were eaten by a hag sometime. So that can create actually narratives, but are those narratives you want to engage in? That's something certainly to consider. One of the other great things about hags is they are one of the epitome of lair monsters in my mind.
Yeah, they do have lairs.
They have fantastic huts and caves and all sorts of great things. How have you found success in your games with running lairs?
I didn't actually, because they went to that hag's lair, but they didn't. I didn't use any of the lair actions. I realized with no, it wasn't an ogre, it was an oni.
It was an oni.
It was an
yeah,
oni, but I was like, I hit them with Cone of Cold, and that hurt.
Yeah.
I should probably scale this back a little. I won't use the lair actions, but there was some fun stuff there. They
Love Cone of Cold?
well, like any creature with its own lair, you can play with different abilities, different atmospheres and effects.
Yeah, they have regional effects along with these layers. Like you were mentioning, the burrs can bring cold into the area. A green hag tends to bring a lot of death to the foliage and to the animals and rot and things like that. Sea hags maybe have a tempest around them. So they're great flavor monsters. I know personally for me, like you, Franco, I wanted to run a game where I got to use every hag type, and it is essentially a dread domain that has a hag at the top, and her daughters run this world from secret. It is a world where people are kind of given this false idea of like, everything's good, it's okay, we can't escape the mists, but we are safe because the enemy has been thwarted, and our gods are still alive and well, and none of that is actually true. The gods are dead, the hags are really running the show, and they are just kind of farming the people who are stuck in this domain of dread. And as a result, I've gotten to play with a lot of types on the hags and how they react to certain things, what their motives are. And I've gotten to play with the coven powers, which is definitely one of my favorite because it adds to their spell casting. It adds some more weird magic to them. And it suddenly becomes a much more dangerous threat. It's not just there are three monsters in front of me. It is now three monsters who are so united that it has affected their stat box.
Yeah, and each of the hags should have in the monster manual or wherever you get it, like the hag and then hag covenant variant, because they will have those abilities listed in there.
Yeah, it'll tell you like it'll even change the CR, the challenge rating for them as well. Yeah. Usually by 2 or so. I think that the shared spellcasting that you get with the Coven is very interesting. Like I think it's a interesting limitation that is also very flavorful because they have to work together to be able to do this. If you kill one of them, it sort of breaks off this incredible power. And then I think they can make. Have you ever used like they can make an eye?
Yes. Actually, I had a fun experience with that where they had an eye, but my group didn't know that they had one. And what
does the eye do?
So the eye allows them to see. It's essentially like it's the arcane eye, which allows them to see everything around them. And it's a divination ability. And my group didn't realize they had one in the hag had one in her hut, and they cast divination on this hag, and she looked right back at them, essentially. And it created this extraordinarily tense moment that they weren't anticipating. And it also, they were kind of dividing this because all of the hags were gathering at this hut to have a discussion, but only one of them saw them, and she kept silent. So it created this new dynamic of, oh no, what does she actually want then? Because if she's not ratting us out and they're not flying to us now, she's going to come and ask for something, and we might use that to our favor, and she might screw us over.
I think that's, talking about this just reminds me of how versatile and cool the hag is when it comes to storytelling elements and things like that, because I feel like, a hag, and definitely a hag coven, can be a very, high-level threat to players, but when you look at the stats themselves of, say, like a green hag, you don't actually get that first impression. And it's really the flavor element that really gets to it, because, magic, if in D&D, a lot of campaign settings are what I consider like high-level magic. You have wizards, you have sorcerers, and even warlocks, and with all of them, there are rules, and there's methods, and there are structures on how magic works. And what I love about the hag, and what I love is kind of creepy about it, is that it shows that there's levels of magic that humans don't really understand, because they can do weird crap that it's like, how does that work? How are you able to just pull this off? It's like comes naturally to a hag that's not even a sorcerer can like comprehend, and they so creepy. And I just love every element of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hags are really masterminds too. I don't recommend using them to just throw for combat reasons, like they're really out there trying to run their schemes. They have like a specific agenda in mind. And I think that's really how, they come out the best when you're running a hag.
Yeah. And if to give you some sort of idea of the type of creature that you're dealing with, like look at their names, because it's so much fun. There's a hag names table that you can like roll to just kind of get things
in Volos.
In Volos, right? Yeah. So if you can find it, but there's stuff like just picking some stuff out of this random. There's Granny Sally Toe Stealer, or there's Rickety Ethel Wormwiggle. It's some of these like last names like Bone Chewer. So it's the title is typically something familiar like
Auntie,
grandma.
Auntie,
or old, or Granny, or Dread, or Wicked even. And then you've got a first name which is just sort of normal. Sally, Peggy, Olga, whatever. And then the last name is kind of odd, like Knuckle Bones, or eyelash goop. I don't know.
I just found a couple.
Heart drinker.
There's I'm trying to find more of them, but I found my favorite one, which is Nerve Peeler.
Oh yes, I remember Nerve Peeler.
Nerve Peeler was great.
That was a good one.
That was one of my favorite ones I came up with.
That was a very good one.
Gristle Gums.
So if you had any last kind of thoughts about how you would run a hag in a 5th edition game, or even just in another TTRPG, what tips would you throw out there? Last tips.
Definitely, as Franco mentioned earlier, the machination. So not the big bad you want to fight for the grand finale fight, but somebody in the background who's like controlling things and manipulating things.
And definitely low level things. And by that, I just mean like she wants everyone to do her bidding, or she it's all really keeping it really local and keeping it really personal, I think is also really crucial with a hag, because they go into your dreams. They're like, using coins to control your children. They're I don't know, digging up your dead relatives and stuff, like they're doing things like personal to people in a small community. I think keeping it at that level will really make their like viciousness and their sort of spookiness and creepiness really come out.
Yeah, I would say very much a perfect epitome of folk horror, the hag, without a doubt. And I guess following up on that, yeah, they're They're dangerous not because they're necessarily a powerful creature, though I would not want to fight one in combat, but they're planners. If you kill one, they'll probably have a backup plan, which is going to make you regret your choices deeply. Maybe it unleashes an even worse evil. And also, you don't even have to necessarily view them as antagonists, like I said. You can make them as a pivotal part in unlocking a secret. Maybe they're even an ally, but if they're an ally, they're a really creepy ally that you can never fully trust. And I just love that dynamic that you can play with as a dungeon master.
And I'll just throw in, because I think you've hit the nail on the head, all of you. The last thing I'll say is subvert things. Remember that these are just stat blocks, and this is just a loose collection of ideas. Personally, if I hear Granny so-and-so, even if it's just like Granny Sally or Granny or Auntie Maeve, and they don't give the last name, I'm immediately, as a player, thinking that might be a hag. Make it Grandpa so-and-so or Uncle so-and-so. And, just kind of subvert it, but you don't have to do that. We're just, spitballing here.
Yeah, I mean, you guys didn't have to throw that relic blinding Auntie Stitchmouth.
Stitchmouth.
She was just trying to have a cool relic in her collection. She actually wasn't going to do anything. Now I can tell you that.
But yeah, at the time you didn't know. All right, guys. Do you think we should put this monster back under the bed?
I don't want her under my bed, but probably.
Yeah, let's get Nick and Danny.
No,
back from
not under our beds. Under the listeners' beds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, folks.
Sorry. If you hear scratching, it's probably already too late.
That's right. All right. Do you have the diamond to cast Revivify on Nick and Daniel?
Oh, yeah. I think it's got it some here. I'll probably come back a little weird, but, them's the breaks when it comes to resurrection.
They were already kind of weird. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure to keep tuning in. All this month we've been doing Under the Beds on Thursdays and all sorts of great special things for Halloween on Mondays. I don't know if Nick's already mentioned, but we have a fantastic guest coming out on Halloween. I'll let him actually announce the guests. But we hope you'll stay tuned. Bye.